Once upon a time, in a lush, green valley surrounded by towering mountains, there was a small village where animals lived in harmony. Among them was Tortoise, known for his cunning rather than his strength or speed. In this village, legend spoke of the drums of wealth, magical drums that granted untold riches and fortune to those who could beat them with pure intentions. However, no one knew where the drums were hidden, and over the years, many had searched but failed to find them. Tortoise, always scheming, grew curious about these drums. He was not a wealthy creature by any means, his home was a modest burrow, and he lived a simple life. But deep inside, Tortoise longed for wealth and the comfort it could bring. He began to hatch a plan to find the legendary drums and claim their magic for himself. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned crimson, Tortoise approached the village elder, Owl, known for her wisdom and knowledge of ancient tales. Owl, I have heard of the drums of wealth for many years. Is it true that they exist, and if so, where might one find them? Tortoise asked, trying to mask his greed with a facade of curiosity. Owl, perched high on her branch, eyed Tortoise knowingly. The drums of wealth do exist, Tortoise, but they are not easily found. They are hidden deep in the forest of shadows, guarded by the spirits of past seekers who were blinded by greed. The drums are not meant for the selfish but for those who seek to uplift others. Only one with a pure heart can beat them and be granted the riches they bestow. Tortoise nodded, pretending to understand. But in his mind, he thought, if I am clever enough to outwit those spirits, the drums will be mine. The next morning, Tortoise set out on his journey. He walked slowly, for he was not a fast creature, but his mind raced with plans. After several days of travel, he reached the edge of the forest of shadows. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches like arms reaching toward the sky. A heavy fog clung to the forest floor, and an eerie silence filled the air. Tortoise took a deep breath and entered the forest. As he ventured deeper, the shadows grew darker, and he began to feel the presence of unseen eyes watching him. Suddenly, a whispering voice echoed through the trees. Who dares enter the forest of shadows in search of the drums of wealth? Tortoise paused but quickly regained his composure. It is I, Tortoise. I seek the drums to bring prosperity to the village. The voice chuckled darkly. Many have come before you, Tortoise, but none have left with the drums. Their greed consumed them, and now they are bound to this forest forever. What makes you think you are worthy? Tortoise, always quick with his words, replied, I am not like the others. I seek the drums not for myself but for the good of all. With the riches they bestow, I will build schools, feed the hungry, and shelter the poor. The spirits whispered among themselves, and the forest seemed to hum with energy. Very well, Tortoise. We will lead you to the drums of wealth. But beware, the path is treacherous, and your heart will be tested. With that, the fog parted, revealing a narrow path through the trees. Tortoise followed the path, his heart racing. He had no intention of sharing the wealth with anyone. Once he had the drums, he would keep the riches for himself. After what felt like hours, Tortoise came upon a clearing in the center of the forest. There, on a stone pedestal, sat the drums of wealth. They were beautifully crafted, with golden skins that shimmered in the dim light. Tortoise approached them, his eyes wide with anticipation. But just as he reached out to touch the drums, the spirits appeared before him, their forms swirling like mist. Tortoise, before you beat the drums, you must answer one question truthfully. What do you truly seek from the drums of wealth? Tortoise hesitated. He could feel the spirit's eyes upon him, piercing through his shell and into his very soul. For a moment, he considered lying, but he knew the spirits would see through his deception. I seek wealth for myself, Tortoise finally admitted, his voice low. I wish to live in comfort and luxury, free from the hardships of life. The spirit's form swayed angrily, and the air grew cold. You are not worthy, Tortoise. Your greed has sealed your fate. Suddenly, the ground beneath Tortoise began to tremble. The pedestal cracked, and the drums began to sink into the earth. Panicking, Tortoise tried to grab them, but his slow movements were no match for the speed at which the drums disappeared. The spirits laughed as Tortoise struggled, and soon the drums were gone, swallowed by the earth. Defeated, Tortoise slumped to the ground. The spirit spoke one last time. The drums of wealth are not meant for the selfish. Only those who seek to better the world may claim their power. Leave this forest, Tortoise, and remember this lesson well. With his head hung low, Tortoise slowly made his way back to the village. His dreams of wealth shattered, he returned to his modest burrow. From that day forward, Tortoise lived quietly, reflecting on the consequences of his greed. He never sought the drums of wealth again, for he had learned that true riches come not from material wealth but from living a life of kindness and generosity. And so, the legend of the drums of wealth continued, a cautionary tale for all who sought fortune at the expense of others.